The projector screen glowed behind him as Marcus clicked to the next slide. 200 investors sat in the ballroom, their eyes fixed on the presentation. My presentation. The one I had written. The code architecture I had designed. The product vision I had created 12 years ago in a cramped apartment with a laptop that kept overheating. Marcus smiled, confident and polished in his $1,000 suit. "We built this company from nothing," he said. "Pure innovation. Pure vision." I sat in the back row, uninvited. My hands were folded on my lap. My tablet held everything I needed. 12 years of evidence, 2 years of careful documentation, 1 moment to make it all count. He had no idea I was there. But I should go back. I should tell you how a woman who wrote the first line of code for what became a billion-dollar company ended up sitting in the audience instead of on that stage. I should tell you about the night everything changed and the 2 years I spent preparing for this exact moment. It started on a Wednesday, 6 months ago. I was in my home office debugging a critical piece of our AI algorithm, the kind of work that required complete focus, the kind of work that had built our entire platform. My daughter Emma was upstairs doing homework. The house was quiet except for the hum of my computer fans. I heard the front door open. Marcus's footsteps were heavy. We had been business partners for 12 years, married for 10. The lines between the two had blurred a long time ago. He walked into my office without knocking. He never knocked anymore. "Sarah," he said, "we need to talk." I saved my work and turned around. His face had that look, the one he wore when he was about to deliver bad news but had convinced himself it was actually good news. "The board met today," he continued. "We're making some organizational changes." I waited. "We're bringing in Victoria Chen as the new CTO. She's got fresh ideas. She's got the vision we need for the IPO. The words hung in the air. CTO, my title, the role I had built from nothing. Victoria Chen, I said slowly, the daughter of our lead investor. Her credentials are impressive. Stanford MBA, she worked at. She's 28 years old, Marcus. She's never written a line of production code in her life. She doesn't need to write code. She needs to inspire the team. She needs to be the face of innovation. I almost laughed. 12 years of 80-hour weeks. 12 years of building every system, hiring every engineer, architecting every feature. And now I needed to be more inspiring. What about me? I asked. You'll transition to a senior advisor role. You'll still have equity, of course. But Sarah, let's be honest. You're a brilliant programmer, but you're not a visionary. You're too deep in the technical weeds. We need someone who can see the big picture. I looked at him. This man I had met in a coffee shop 13 years ago. This man who couldn't write a for loop when we started. This man who I had taught everything. When does this happen? I asked. Victoria starts Monday. We'll announce it internally tomorrow. I nodded. Okay. He blinked. He had expected a fight. He had expected tears or anger or pleading. He had probably rehearsed his responses. Okay, he repeated. I understand, I said. You're making a business decision. Relief washed over his face. I knew you'd get it. You always do. You're practical. That's what I've always appreciated about you. He left. I heard him go upstairs, probably to pack a bag. He had been staying at his downtown apartment more often lately, the one he rented under the company name. I sat in my office for a long time. Then I opened my laptop and started a new folder. I titled it Documentation. The next morning, I called my attorney. Not our family lawyer, a new one. Someone who specialized in intellectual property and corporate law. Miss Morgan, the voice said. David Chen from Patterson and Associates. Mr. Chen, I'm a co-founder of a tech startup. I'm being pushed out. I need to protect what's mine. Tell me what you have. Everything. Every line of code I've written. Every patent application I filed. Every email where my partner stole my ideas and presented them as his own. I've been keeping records for 2 years. There was a pause. 2 years? You knew this was coming. I'm a programmer, I said. I debug problems. 2 years ago, I noticed a pattern. My ideas getting credited to others. My contributions minimized in board meetings. My access to certain files restricted, so I started backing everything up. Can you come to my office this afternoon? I'll be there at 2. I met Marcus when I was 26. I was working as a software engineer at a startup that had just failed. He was a sales guy at the same company, charming and ambitious, always talking about the next big thing. We got coffee after our final company meeting, the one where they told us all we were laid off. This is actually perfect timing, he said, stirring sugar into his espresso. I've been thinking about starting something new. Something revolutionary. Doing what? I asked. AI-powered customer service. Imagine a system that could handle support tickets automatically, learn from every interaction, get smarter over time. That's technically complex, I said. The natural language processing alone would require, see, that's why I need someone like you. I've got the vision. I've got the sales skills. But I need someone who can actually build it. I looked at him. His eyes were bright with possibility. He had no idea how hard it would be. But I did, and I knew I could do it. I'd need equity, I said. Equal partnership. Done. 50-50. We build this together. We shook hands across the coffee-stained table. 2 weeks later, we incorporated. I wrote the first line of code in my studio apartment at 2 a.m. Marcus was out networking, trying to find investors. Those first 3 years were brutal. I worked 100-hour weeks. I built the entire platform myself. The AI engine, the API, the dashboard, the deployment infrastructure, everything. Marcus brought in our first customer, then our second, then our 10th. He was good at selling. I'll give him that. He could walk into a room and make people believe in the future, but every feature they wanted, every customization they requested, every bug they found, that all came back to me. I remember one night, 3 years in. I had been coding for 16 hours straight. It was 3 a.m. Emma was asleep upstairs. She was 2 years old. I had barely seen her that week. Marcus came into my office with champagne. We did it, he said. Thompson Industries just signed. $50,000 a month. We're profitable. We toasted. We celebrated. He picked me up and spun me around like we were in a movie. We're a team, he said. The perfect team. You build it, I sell it. I believed him. For a long time, I believed we were partners. But somewhere around year 5, things started to shift. We hired our first employees. Marcus became CEO. I became CTO. We moved into a real office. We raised our Series A. Marcus started introducing me differently at meetings. This is Sarah, our technical lead, he'd say. Not co-founder, not partner, technical lead. When investors asked about the technology, Marcus would answer. He'd use my words, my explanations, my technical innovations, but he'd deliver them like they were his insights. I didn't correct him. I was too busy working. By year 8, we had 50 employees. By year 10, we had raised $30 million. By year 12, we were preparing for an IPO that would value the company at over $1 billion. And I was still in my office, writing code, fixing bugs, training engineers. While Marcus played golf with investors and gave keynote speeches about his revolutionary vision, I started noticing things. Small things that added up. My name disappeared from press releases. My contributions were credited to the engineering team in board presentations. Meetings were scheduled when I couldn't attend. Decisions about technical architecture, my domain, were made without consulting me. Then, 2 years ago, I found the email. I was looking for a technical specification in our shared drive. I accidentally opened a folder labeled Board Materials, Confidential. Inside was a presentation Marcus had given to the board 6 months earlier. One slide caught my eye. It was titled Organizational Structure for IPO. Under CEO, it showed Marcus. Under CTO, it showed TBD, Need Visionary Technical Leader. Under Advisor, it showed my name. They had been planning this for 6 months. They were going to push me out before the IPO. I sat at my desk and felt something cold settle in my stomach. Not anger, not yet. Something more useful. Clarity. I copied the file. I started copying everything. Every email where Marcus took credit for my work. Every Slack message where he dismissed my technical opinions. Every board meeting where my contributions were minimized. Every patent application that listed me as primary inventor. Every commit in our Git repository showing I had written 83% of our codebase. I installed backup software on my work laptop. Everything I created, every file I accessed, every conversation I had, it all got copied to an encrypted cloud drive only I could access. I became invisible again. Not because Marcus was making me invisible, but because I chose to be. I said less in meetings. I stopped correcting him when he misrepresented my work. I let him think I was content with being the quiet, technical person in the background. And I watched. I documented. I prepared. 6 months before the IPO, Marcus hired Victoria. He didn't tell me first. I found out in a company-wide email. Excited to welcome Victoria Chen as our new CTO. Victoria brings a fresh perspective and will lead our technical vision as we prepare for this exciting next chapter. She moved into the office next to his. The office that used to be mine before I voluntarily moved to a smaller space to be closer to the engineering team. I watched them through the glass walls, the way he leaned in when he talked to her, the way she laughed at his jokes, the way they went to lunch together every day. I pulled up our company's expense reports. Hotel rooms in New York during investor meetings, dinners at restaurants I had never been to. A weekend trip to Napa Valley billed as strategic planning. I documented it all. The day Marcus told me about my transition, I was ready. I had been ready for months. That night, after he left, I called David Chen. "Mr. Chen," I said, "I'm ready to move forward. What's your goal here, Miss Morgan? Reinstatement? Severance? What do you want?" I thought about 12 years of early mornings and late nights. I thought about missing Emma's first words because I was on a conference call. I thought about building something from nothing while Marcus played golf and took bows. "I want what's mine," I said. "I want the truth to come out, and I want to make sure this IPO doesn't happen on lies. That's a nuclear option, Miss Morgan. If you disrupt the IPO, the company's value could." "I know exactly what will happen," I said. "That's the point." Over the next 6 months, Marcus got bolder. He started telling people his version of history. At the company all hands, he told the story of how he founded the company, how he built the technology, how he had the vision that changed everything. I sat in the back and took notes. He told TechCrunch that I was a talented programmer who helped in the early days. When they asked about my role now, he said I was transitioning to an advisory position to focus on strategic initiatives. The article didn't mention that I had written every major feature. It didn't mention the 19 patents with my name on them. It didn't mention that our core AI algorithm was entirely my work. I saved the article. Victoria started making changes. She reorganized my engineering team. She scheduled vision meetings where she talked about technical strategies she had clearly Googled the night before. In one meeting, she said, "We need to revolutionize our approach to machine learning. We should explore neural networks." Our entire system was built on neural networks, had been for 8 years. One of my engineers looked at me. I shook my head slightly. "Don't correct her. Let it go." After the meeting, the same engineer came to my office. "Sarah," he said quietly, "what's happening? She doesn't know anything, and Marcus is letting her make technical decisions that could break everything we've built." "I know," I said. "What are you going to do?" I looked at him. He had been with me for 6 years, one of my first hires. He was loyal, competent, and he understood that something was very wrong. "Document everything," I said. "Every bad decision, every technical error, every meeting where she demonstrates she doesn't understand our system. Send it to your personal email, just in case." He nodded slowly. "You're planning something." "I'm protecting what we built," I said. 2 weeks before the IPO, I ran into an old friend at a coffee shop. Jennifer had been an early investor in our company. She had believed in us when we were nothing. "Sarah," she hugged me, "I can't believe it's almost here. The IPO. You must be so excited." "It's been a long road," I said carefully. "I was surprised to see Marcus doing all the press solo. I thought you two would be doing the roadshow together." "Organizational changes," I said. "Marcus is better at the public-facing stuff." Jennifer's smile faded. "Sarah, what's really going on? I've known you for 10 years. I know when you're being diplomatic." I looked at her. She was one of the few investors who had actually understood the technology, who had asked me questions instead of just talking to Marcus. "Off the record?" I asked. "Always. They're pushing me out. They've been planning it for 2 years. They want Marcus and Victoria to be the faces of the company for the IPO. I'm too technical. Not visionary enough. That's insane. You built the entire platform. I know. What are you going to do? I smiled. Come to the Investor Roadshow next week. You'll see. The IPO Roadshow was scheduled for a Tuesday morning. 200 investors, analysts, and reporters packed into the ballroom of the Fairmont Hotel. The presentation would be live-streamed to thousands more. Marcus and Victoria would present together. The young, visionary CEO and his brilliant CTO, the perfect leadership team to take the company public. I wasn't invited. I wasn't even on the approved attendee list, but I came anyway. I wore a simple black suit. I brought my tablet. I sat in the back row and waited. Marcus took the stage. The presentation began. He talked about his vision, his journey, his innovations. Slide after slide, I watched him claim credit for my work. The AI engine I had designed, the algorithms I had invented, the architecture I had built. Victoria stood beside him, nodding and smiling. She looked the part. Young, polished, confident. Everything I apparently wasn't. They showed a demo of the product. My product. The one I had spent 12 years perfecting. The audience applauded. Marcus clicked to the team slide. There were photos of the executive team. Marcus, large in the center. Victoria next to him. Other executives in smaller photos around them. I wasn't on the slide. The co-founder, who had written 83% of the code base. The woman who had invented their core technology. I had been erased. Marcus spoke. We've built an incredible team. People who share our vision for the future of AI. That's when I stood up. The movement caught his eye. He looked toward the back of the room. His face went pale. I walked down the center aisle. 200 people turned to watch me. The live stream camera swung in my direction. I'm sorry to interrupt, I said clearly, but I think there's been some confusion about the history of this company. Marcus found his voice. Sarah, this isn't the time. Actually, this is exactly the time. I reached the front of the room. Since you're about to ask these people to invest hundreds of millions of dollars in a company built on lies. The room went silent. I turned to face the investors. My name is Sarah Morgan. I'm the co-founder of this company. Not an advisor, not a former employee. Co-founder. I wrote the first line of code 12 years ago. I designed the AI engine you just saw demonstrated. I hold 19 patents on the core technology, and I have evidence that everything you've been told today is a carefully constructed fiction. Marcus stepped toward me. This is completely inappropriate. Security. I wouldn't do that, I said quietly, because I'm about to show these investors something very interesting. I connected my tablet to the projection system. It took 3 seconds. I had practiced this moment 100 times. The screen behind me changed. Instead of Marcus's polished slides, it now showed lines of code. This, I said, is the Git repository for our core platform. For those who don't know, Git tracks every single change made to our code. Who made it, and when. I pulled up the statistics. As you can see, user, Smorgan, that's me, has made 83% of all commits to this repository. Over 40,000 commits across 12 years. The user, Imchen, that's Marcus, has made exactly 0 commits to the production codebase. Murmurs spread through the room. Reporters were typing frantically. That's not relevant, Marcus said, his voice tight. I'm the CEO, not a programmer. You're right, I said. You're not a programmer. So let me show you what else you're not. I switched screens. Now it showed an email chain. This is from 3 years ago. Victoria Chen, our current CTO who apparently has such fresh vision. This is her asking her father, our lead investor, to convince the board to make space for her in the company. 5 months before there was any public discussion of organizational changes. I scrolled down. And this is Marcus's response. We'll transition Sarah to an advisory role before the IPO. VCs don't want to see a middle-aged woman as CTO. They want young, dynamic leadership. Gasps rippled through the audience. Someone's phone fell and clattered on the floor. Victoria stood frozen on the stage, her face white. I wasn't done. Here's an email from Marcus to our head of PR, asking him to minimize Sarah's visibility in press coverage. Here's a board presentation from 2 years ago, planning my removal. Here's a spreadsheet showing how my equity was illegally diluted through unauthorized stock issuances. I looked at Marcus. He was gripping the podium, his knuckles white. "And here's my personal favorite," I said. I pulled up a recording. "This is from a board meeting 6 months ago. The board asked about the technical feasibility of a major product feature. Marcus, you want to tell them what you said?" I pressed play. Marcus's voice filled the room. "The technology is sound. I've personally reviewed the architecture, and I'm confident we can deliver." I paused it. That feature was technically impossible with our current infrastructure. I had told Marcus that in a private meeting the day before. He pitched it to the board anyway, and when I tried to speak up in that meeting to explain the technical limitations, I was told, and I quote, "We need vision, not technical objections." I switched to another screen. "This is the patent application for our core AI algorithm, filed March 15th, 2014. Primary inventor, Sarah Morgan." But if you look at the press coverage from our Series B funding round 6 months later, Marcus is quoted as saying, "I invented this algorithm in my apartment." Direct quote. I looked out at the investors. They were staring at the screens, at Marcus, at me. Some looked angry. Some looked shocked. Some were already gathering their things. "So before you invest in this IPO," I said, "I want you to understand what you're actually buying. You're buying a company where the person who built everything has been erased, where the person taking credit can't write a single line of code, where the new CTO got her job because her father is your lead investor, and where the CEO has been systematically lying about his contributions for 12 years. I turned to Marcus. Did I miss anything? He stared at me. For the first time in a decade, he had nothing to say. "Oh, wait," I said. "I did miss something." I pulled up one final document. "This is a lawsuit. I'm filing this afternoon. Fraud, intellectual property theft, breach of fiduciary duty, and about 6 other charges. I'm also providing this evidence to the SEC, since several of your statements to investors constitute securities fraud." The room erupted. Investors were standing, talking, shouting questions. Reporters rushed toward the stage. Victoria ran for the exit. Marcus just stood there, watching his entire world collapse in real time. I walked off the stage. As I reached the door, I heard someone calling my name. Jennifer pushed through the crowd. "Sarah, that was necessary," I said. "The IPO is dead. I know. The company might not survive this. I know that too." She looked at me carefully. "You knew exactly what would happen. You planned this." "I'm a programmer," I said. "I solve problems." Marcus was a problem. 3 days later, the board called an emergency meeting. I attended via video call. I had no intention of making it easy for them. The chairman spoke first. "Sarah, in light of recent developments, the board would like to extend an offer. We'll reinstate you as CTO. Marcus will step down as CEO. We'll restructure your equity to reflect your actual contributions. And we'll restart the IPO process with you as the face of the company." I looked at the faces on the screen. The same people who had approved my removal 6 months ago. The same people who had sat in meetings while Marcus took credit for my work. The same people who had diluted my equity and thought I wouldn't notice. "No," I said. They blinked. This wasn't the answer they had expected. "No?" the chairman repeated. "I'm not interested in returning to a company where I have to constantly prove my worth, where my contributions are only recognized after I threaten legal action, where you only value me now because the alternative is financial catastrophe. Sarah, be reasonable. This is your company too." "It was my company," I said. "I built it, but you and Marcus spent 12 years making it very clear that I was just the help. So now I'm moving on. What do you want? Full payment for my equity at the pre-IPO valuation, plus damages. My lawyer will send the details. That's nearly $200 million. That's what my 12 years of work is worth. That's what my intellectual property is worth. That's what it costs to buy my silence and my patents so you can salvage this IPO." The chairman's face turned red. "You're blackmailing us." "No," I said calmly. "I'm negotiating. You can pay me what I'm owed, or I can continue my lawsuit and provide evidence to the SEC. Your choice." They paid. It took 6 weeks of negotiation, but they paid every cent. Marcus was forced out with nothing. The morality clause in his employment contract meant he forfeited his unvested equity. Last I heard, he was working at a mid-level startup in Austin, no longer a CEO. Victoria quit before she could be fired. She moved back to New York. Her father resigned from the board. The company postponed its IPO indefinitely. Without me, and without Marcus, they had to rebuild their entire leadership team and technical credibility. The last valuation I saw had them at about 40% of their previous worth. I started a new company. Something I've been thinking about for years. A platform that helps women in tech protect their intellectual property and document their contributions. We've already helped prevent 3 situations like mine. Emma is 12 now. She's learning to code. Last week she asked me why I left my old company. They forgot who built it, I said, so I had to remind them. Did it work? I smiled. Yeah, sweetheart, it worked. She went back to her Python tutorial. After a minute, she looked up again. Mum, when I build something someday, will people try to steal it? Maybe, I said honestly. But I'm going to teach you something important. Document everything. Save every email. Track every contribution. Because the people who built something always have proof. They just need to be ready to use it. She nodded seriously. Then she grinned. You're kind of scary, Mom. Only to people who underestimate me, I said. I sleep better now. The money from the settlement is nice. The freedom is better. But the best part is knowing that Marcus wakes up every day and remembers the moment I stood up in that ballroom. The moment he realized that the quiet technical person he thought he could erase had been building a case against him for 2 years. He thought I was invisible. I was just paying attention. Some people call my story revenge. They're wrong. It's documentation. It's preparation. It's knowing your worth and being willing to prove it. Marcus saw a programmer who would accept whatever scraps he threw her way. I saw a woman who had built something remarkable and wasn't going to let anyone take credit for it. Some endings are just the beginning of something better.